Okay, we're good to go. We're here today.
So, born and raised in Harrison, New York, which is about 25 miles northeast of Manhattan. Went to Quinnipiac College at the time, and I was a physical therapy major.
Okay.
So in my junior year, I got the opportunity to do an internship in sports medicine. That was a new buzzword in the 70s, and East Carolina had the program.
Okay.
So I came to East Carolina for a semester and met my husband on a blind date the week after I got here. My mother said I was not only blind, I was deaf and dumb. And so I didn't want to go back to school, back to Quinnipiac, so I transferred my credits to East Carolina, but I couldn't get into the physical therapy program because it was only a very new program of 15 students, and you had to be an in-state resident to get into the program. I couldn't do that, so the only thing they could fit my credits into was phys ed, and I did not want to be a phys ed teacher in any way, shape, or form, so I stayed in school for a year, and then I worked another year till Steve got out and we got married. So I opted for an MRS instead of a BS.
Okay.
And so therefore I have no college degree. I have 127 credit hours, but no college degree.
Okay.
But with that being said, the experience of being in college and what it taught me, the ability to learn, the ability to think, the ability to educate myself on certain matters has allowed me to get into different businesses and do what I do today.
Okay, okay. Well, now that you've given us some background, we're going to slide into some of the questions. One of my first questions was for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your areas of expertise.
Okay, so again, you know a little bit about my background, but what happened was I got married and my husband said, you have to get a job. So there was a job opening for a travel agent.
Okay.
So it was called Globe Travel here in New Bern at the time, and I went to work there. And it was in the days before computers and all of that, so I was easily trained.
Okay.
And worked at that, and that started a 30-year career for me because I ended up not only working for that travel agency, working for other travel agencies, but ended up owning my own travel agency. Okay. So in 1989, I opened up my own travel agency here in New Bern, and then ran that until about 2000 and it might have been 2001, 2002. Okay. And at that point, the travel agency was sold, and I just went on to other things. So that was my first little bit of career. But along the way, I started to get civically involved and just learning other things. But what owning the travel agency taught me was how to run a business. And I will tell you, I was very, very inept when I first got there. So I knew how to be a really good travel agent, but I didn't know anything about the back office. So I about lost it all because I had no concept of how to know how much I was making, what profit margins were, all of those important things I knew nothing about. So I actually joined a group of travel agency owners across the United States with a consultant, and I spent the next 2 years going in depth learning how to run a travel agency from the back office side. Okay. And it taught me things like percentage of labor and versus sales and other important information that helped me go from losing $10,000 that year to having a $20,000 profit the next year. Awesome. By managing what I was doing. Okay. So that was probably the first door that really opened for me and allowed me to understand. But from that business, I started another business, which was New Bern Tours and the trolleys. And again, I learned about that in being in civic groups and understanding different things, needs of the city, and then did the research on, you know, where I could get one, how much would it cost, starting the business, how did we do it, so that business started to flourish. So I just, you know, again, was in a position to do something like that. And then from there, I got the opportunity to become a partner in the Birthplace of Pepsi because again, I was the chairman of the tourism board. There were issues with the store. We were talking to the ownership at the time.
Okay.
Didn't like the way it was run, and they turned it around on me and asked me to come in and fix it. So, and that's been since 2007, and that's been something that I've really enjoyed doing. Really, really enjoyed doing. And then the restaurant here, we came into this in 2012. So that was a really important thing. Just don't work if you're not there. So when people say, oh, you can own your own business, you can come and go, that may be the case, but you know, when people don't show up for work, you're the person that's got to jump in and cover that shift, or you're the one that's got to make it happen, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with the owner.
That's right. Okay, so with all those variables and with the known risks and the unknown risks, what made you decide to be an entrepreneur, and how long have you been in this business?
The drive to be an entrepreneur is the freedom to create and do things without somebody standing over your shoulder. So that was probably the biggest motivation. You know, the downside of it is when you fail, you know, there's nobody to back you up.
Right.
And like I said, I almost lost the travel agency. I was in debt up to my eyeballs because I didn't know how to properly manage it. But once I understood the good principles of accounting and business and all of that. And so when you own a business, you not only have to be the worker, you have to be the accountant, the marketer, the everything, the bookkeeper.
Right.
You have to know all of that and do all of that, because if you don't, you can't grasp what your business is doing. You know, at some point as you grow your business, then you can incorporate those people. Like, you know, now I have a bookkeeper, but for many years I had to do it myself. But with that being said, I can put my finger on anything that bookkeeper does and says, hey, why are you doing this? Because I know.
You know. Okay.
I know. You, as an owner of a business, you should know how to do every job in that business. Whether you do it or not is a different story.
Right.
You should know how to do every job in that business.
I think that's vital.
Yes,
okay.
It is vital.
So for our next question, what was or is the most important factor in building your brand? Creating awareness about yourself or any of your products that you have sold or been involved with over the past few years? And not few years, because she's been doing this for a long time, people.
Well, I think the most important thing is to know who your market is.
Gotcha.
You can't build a brand if you don't know. If your market is children, you need to surround yourself with children's things by going to parks and whatever where children are about. You know, if it's seniors, you need to, you know, immerse yourself in that marketplace. So the first step would be know who your market is, then market and build your brand to that market. You can't build something for everybody. It won't work.
Okay. Okay.
Listen, it's an iPhone.
Okay. In relation to your overall goals, what matters more in building a successful venture for you? Maximizing your wealth or maintaining control? This is something that we have discussed in class. This was our first blog discussion.
I don't like that word, maximizing your wealth. I don't like that word.
Okay.
I would say maximizing profits.
Gotcha.
I like that better than wealth, because I don't like that term.
Okay.
You know, today everybody wants to make it so negative.
Right.
But it would be maximizing profits.
Gotcha.
And so if you don't have profits, you can't reinvest in the business and build the business. So at the end of the day, no profit, no anything, just breaking even doesn't provide you to grow your business. Okay. So, you know, to me, that would be unsatisfactory, just accepting the fact that we just break even. So that would probably be the more important thing for me.
Okay. In the event that you needed to bring in an additional person to work, to be a partner, or to invest, typically with the control, would that be an issue for you?
Yes.
Would you like to maintain the control?
You know, I would tell you that in most cases, and it's just been my husband's philosophy, we don't do partners.
Okay.
We don't even like to partner with our children.
And you know what, that leads us to, I think, one of our next questions. And statistically speaking, again, in the books that Dr. Lam and Dr. Lockwood have issued for us, One of the first books that we've been reading is by Noam Wasserman, and it details in there that family businesses, or any type of business where there's some type of relationship prior, that they typically don't work out.
Yeah, so I will tell you, so the story with my husband's family,
okay,
is that he is a roofing contractor, and right now they've been in business 109 years.
Wow.
They were founded in 1910 by his grandfather.
Okay.
He's the third generation. But there were bumps and bruises along the way, in that his grandfather started it. He was, the starter of the business, and he had one son who he passed it along to. But there was always friction with the sisters because they were not a part of that business or didn't benefit from that business. Therefore, my father-in-law had one son, who's my husband, and he had 3 sisters, and they were never part of the business. It was that male hierarchy,
right?
Okay? And didn't benefit, and it did cause some issues and conversation.
I've never thought about that.
Because they felt like, why are we not benefiting from it when we are not involved? But they always looked at it as a man's role. So now we come to the 4th generation, and my son, who's the only boy, is not interested in the business. Okay. He's not interested. He doesn't want to be in the roofing business. It's not his cup of tea. So where we're at right now is my daughter is married. Her husband just got out of the Marine Corps, and he is interested. I'm not saying that that's where it's going to go. So he's gone to work for my husband. So he's working. He doesn't own the business. He's not, but he is working to potentially see if that would be something that he would like to do. But we have no hesitation in saying we're done. We ran our best. It's 110, 115 years old, and that's it. And thank you, Lord, for blessing us all these years, but we're done. We have no problem with that, or selling it to somebody else, because everything has a beginning and an end. Everything has its season.
Right.
And so we're realistic enough to know that we're just not going to hand over something to our children, that we worked for it. We expect them to work for it. And while they are in here helping us run the business, they don't own any of the businesses.
Okay. Okay. Well said.
You have to protect yourself in the sense that, they say the spirit of a family comes through at funerals. When somebody dies, you see the spirit of a family, fighting and fussing and whatever. And so, my husband said if he dies, the only thing he wants to remember is never give up control.
Okay.
So, back to your question about partners and partnerships, choose your partners wisely. Make sure whatever the terms of the agreement, that it is specifically spelled out with an exit strategy. You don't go into any business without an exit strategy. And that exit strategy should tell you that there's 2 reasons to own a business. One, to make it a profit and sell it.
Okay. Or
to build it and pass it on to the next generation.
Okay.
So you need to know what that exit strategy is. It's one or the other.
Okay. Okay.
I hope that answered you.
Yeah, it did very well. My last question is, how do you maintain business equilibrium? What are some business practices that facilitate you in doing so? In reading these chapters, we've read a lot about just managing these businesses. As we talked about prior to our recording, there are so many variables. I think you sort of answered this question because you told me you have to know how to do everything. So in the event that something happens, you can always step in. Yeah. Are there any other advice?
Have to be able to react.
Okay.
And you have to know that you're always going to have something. So you have to be flexible enough to solve the problem, and you have to be a problem solver. You have to maintain a good attitude, because you can't expect your employees to have a good attitude if you as the owner don't have a good attitude. My whole philosophy is I treat everybody the way I want to be treated, all my employees. I'm respectful to them. I have an open door policy, but when I have to be firm, I still have to run a business, and I have to be firm. So sometimes I make decisions that sometimes people don't understand, but at the end of the day, if I don't maintain this business and make a profit, they don't have a job.
That's right.
So I have 50 people working here that depend on me for a paycheck. So it is, extremely important that I do my job, because if I don't do my job, and continue to make the necessary decisions to make the profit, somebody's going to be out of work.
Right.
To me, that's a bigger burden than anything else.
Oh, okay.
Well, think about it.
Yeah,
Think about the families that
Absolutely.
I'm helping to feed or whatever. And you know, everybody here is going through something.
Right.
I don't care what it is. They're single parents. They're, you know, having troubles in their marriages. They're having financial troubles, and a lot of it is because they've never had any financial literacy. And some of the things I try to do is I try to, you know, bring in people here that could help them.
Okay.
You know, and teach them different things. I have a young man here I'm getting ready to work with that every week he's asking me to borrow $60 because he can't pay a bill or this to do that, and he can't seem to figure out what his budget is. So I'm going to sit down and try to help him figure out a budget so he can know what he owes every month and what his payments are so he can figure out.
That's tremendous. I don't think a lot of business owners take the time out to do stuff like that.
What happens is then that employee becomes frustrated. He ends up either quitting his job or, you know, he becomes depressed, something else. It leads to drugs, it leads to illegal things because, you know, when you get your back in a corner with money, it creates bad problems. So I'm willing to take the extra step to help anybody I can. Just because strong team, you know, strong employees creates a strong business, and that's what I'm trying to strive for. Strong employees that stay here for a long time, but they're taking care of me. I have to take care of them.
Absolutely.
So, and again, that's a business. You know, in your entrepreneurship, you can have a service that you provide. You may just be providing a service to people, but it's still up to you to make that service happen. And you're only as good as the people that surround you, and that's just the way it is.
All right. Is there any other advice? Because I think you closed that out beautifully.
No, you know, be true to yourself, be who you are, and don't try to do what you know you can't do.
Okay.
You know, if you can't do something over here, either get education and figure out how to do it, or find somebody else or go in a different direction. Because when you try to do things you know you can't do, it doesn't work out. You know, I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at.
Right. Okay. So. Well, before I let everyone go, I do want you to kind of give us where your businesses are so that in the event anyone ever wants to visit little old New Bern, they can come on and see your establishment.
So, you know, of course, we're here today in Baker's Kitchen. We're located at 227 Middle Street, and we are a family-friendly kind of home cooking place. We're open daily from 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Bakery on site in Hobetz. We love this little business here. Then we also have Beer Army Burger Company.
Okay.
That's located at 313 Pollock Street, and we have 16 craft beers on tap, plus gourmet burgers, and we're open 7 days a week as well, from 11 a.m. to 10, 11 on, you know, it's later on the weekends. We have New Bern Tours, which is the New Bern trolley cars, which do tours of the historic district, and that operates on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So visit our website at newberntours.com.
Okay.
And then, of course, New Bern's claim to fame is we are the birthplace of Pepsi, and you can come to the actual location where Caleb Bradham invented Pepsi-Cola in 1898, and you can even buy a Miss Pat Frazier mug and postcard and learn about the first African-American model for a Pepsi-Cola company who actually lives here in New Bern. So come and visit us. We'd love to have you. New Bern is the first state capital, has a lot of great history here, and just love having people.
All right. Thank you today.